Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today what we're doing is we're doing a continuation of last video, which was that 4-year-old writing challenge that I did one December. I'm not going to go too much into detail this time around because I did that full explanation in the first video, which I would recommend checking out because I thought that the first story was at the very least decent, and you get to hear about my embarrassing slide into the DM story, which honestly I feel like I'm actually making into more of a thing than it actually was, but that's just how I am. I overcomplicate things because I'm me. So anyway, without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into the introduction for this story. So basically for this story, this is basically a direct homage to the Taiwanese indie horror game Devotion. There is a section in the game in which you play the father who's kind of like this, he's in the creative field, and he's telling a bedtime story to his daughter, but they're kind of making the story up on the fly, and the daughter is kind of adding her own input to it. It's a very fun, cute, wholesome section in a game that is very fun, but not altogether very cute or wholesome. Honestly, this whole story is basically like an homage fest too. The whole title, Wendy and the Extraordinary World, that's a direct reference to a French animation of a very similar name. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Story 2. Wendy and the Extraordinary World. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a princess. Her name was Anna. Aw, you always tell this one. Of course. It's your favorite. Hello? That was my favorite, but I'm not 6 anymore. Right. How could I forget? You're 7 years old now. Too mature for fairy tales. That's right, I want big girl stories. Well, what can we do? All the stories we have here are for little girls. I know, let's make up a story. Good idea. How should it start? I don't know. Okay, how about I start it then? Once upon a time. You said no fairy tales! This isn't a fairy tale. You'll see. Once upon a time, there was a girl. She was about 7 years old, and her name was Wendy. Yes, her name was Wendy, and she was the smartest girl in the whole country. So smart, in fact, that one day the king invited her to his palace. Why? Well, why do you think? Because he needed her help with something. Exactly. The king was in trouble, and he didn't know what to do. He was very, very sad. Why was he so sad? I don't know. Do you think you know why the king was sad? He was sad because it was Christmas time and he didn't have any presents. Yes, that would make anyone sad. Great idea. His wife, the queen, got a special pen. With it, she could be pen pals with anyone that ever lived. His son got special glasses. With these, he could make himself look like anyone that he wanted. He loved to pull pranks with them, but the king was the only one in his family who didn't get anything, and he didn't know what to do. So he called all of his royal advisors to help him make a plan. There were 3 of them. 2 were very good, and 1 was very evil. The 2 good ones said, I know, you should call Wendy. She's the smartest girl in the whole country. She could help you. The evil one, Jeffrey. Ooh, that sounds very evil. Jeffrey did not like this plan. You see, Jeffrey wanted to be king too, so he stole the king's present, and this present was very, very powerful. Do you know what it was? It was a magic orb that could make anyone king. That's exactly what it was. The king was starting to get old, and he was thinking of retiring, but he couldn't just pass the crown on to his son. He had to use the magic orb, and he could only get this orb on Christmas. The king was hoping that this year he would finally get the orb and make his son the new king. But when he got nothing, he didn't know what to do. Jeffrey, the evil advisor, snuck into the throne room late at night when no one was watching and stole the king's present from the Christmas tree. Excellent, he said. With this, I can become king, and I will rule over the land. When the advisors told the king to call in Wendy, Jeffrey got very nervous. He knew that the smartest girl in the country would be able to figure out his plan, so he tried to trick the king. Ah, yes, I have heard of Wendy, he said. And while I do agree that she is very smart, I think that my niece is even smarter. She has been living with me for some time, and I trust her. She would know what to do. Is this true? Asked the king. Your Highness, I have served you for 30 years. Have I ever steered you wrong? The king was deep in thought. He knew that Wendy was the smartest girl in the whole country, but he had to trust his advisor. Jeffrey never steered the king wrong, not even once. Very well, we shall bring them both in. Summon them immediately. This was not what Jeffrey wanted. Since Wendy was coming, he knew that he would have to come up with a plan. Wendy, as smart as she was, knew that this was very serious, so she came in immediately. The throne room was empty save for the king and his advisors. But the evil niece... Wait, you didn't give the niece a name! Well, why don't you give her a name? You've already done such a good job with everyone else. Okay... How about Jenny? Ooh, Jenny the evil niece. I like it. So, Jenny took a very long time to get there. The king was beginning to get impatient, but she finally came. 3 hours later. The king explained everything to them. How he didn't get any presents, how sad he was, and how he was worried for the future of the country. Do you two have any idea what to do? He asked. What do you think Wendy said? She said, "Don't worry, Your Highness, I'll invent a present for you." That would be fantastic, Wendy, said the king. Actually, said Jenny, the evil niece, with an equally evil grin, I already invented a present. You did? Asked the king. Naturally, as the smartest girl in the whole world, when my brilliant uncle told me that you were sad, I knew what I had to do. That's why it took me so long to get here. I was busy making a gift for you, and I knew that only the best present would be fit for a king. Jenny pulled an object out from her sleeve and handed it to the king with a curtsy. The king inspected his new gift. Why, it was the magic orb that could turn anyone into a king. Not even the country's best scientist could build one. And Jenny had invented it herself? She really must be the smartest girl in the whole world, he thought. But Wendy knew better than that. She knew that she had to say something. What did she say? Your Highness, that orb isn't real. Jenny is evil and she's lying. Is this true, Jenny? Is this orb fake? Asked the king. Your Highness, said Jenny, the evil niece. How could I lie to you? Am I not the niece of your most trusted advisor? I believe that Wendy is trying to trick you. But I'm telling the truth, it really isn't real. Jenny was very upset when she heard this. Your Highness, she is lying. She wants to use the orb for herself. Indeed, said Jeffrey. My niece is not a liar. Silence! Yelled the king. The whole room grew quiet. The king looked at Wendy. He was very serious. Wendy, can you prove that this orb is fake? Yes, I can, Your Highness. What does she do? Well, since she's the smartest girl in the country, she could make a real orb herself. The king would know that Jenny's was fake then. Good idea. So, the king told Wendy that she had until midnight to make the orb. If she didn't make it by then, she would never get another Christmas present again for the rest of time. Jeffrey smiled when he heard this. This is perfect, he thought. There's no way that she could make that orb. Not even our best scientist could. But Wendy was not afraid. She pulled out her toolkit and started working. Minute after minute, hour after hour, she slaved away. Sometimes she would get so close to finishing, but every time she thought she had done it, it wouldn't work. It was now 11:30. The clock was ticking, and no one, not even the king, thought that Wendy would finish in time. Jenny and Jeffrey celebrated. That foolish Wendy, said Jeffrey. She should have known better. Soon I'll be king and I'll make you my princess, my sweet Jenny. Jenny, the evil niece, smiled with an equally evil grin. When I'm princess, I'm gonna throw her into the dungeon. Excellent. It was now 11:50, and Wendy still wasn't finished. She was missing something. a secret ingredient. But what was it? What could it be? She had already put so much love in her work, but it still wasn't enough. I know, but it's a secret, so I have to whisper it to you. Yes, that's perfect. The bell rang. It was now midnight, and Wendy was nowhere to be found. But just when all hope was lost, Wendy came. She had finished her orb. Jeffrey could not believe this. He raised his voice to say something, but the king silenced him. The king called Wendy and Jenny the evil niece to his throne and had them present their orbs. He then called his son to the throne. Son, the king said, I am very old, and soon I fear that I will no longer be able to be king. I now wish to pass the crown on to you. I did not get the magic orb for Christmas as I wished, but these two young girls have made orbs of their own. One I believe will make you king. The other, I fear, is fake. You must choose one and choose wisely. This is your first test as king. Your Grace, said Jenny with big puppy dog eyes, please choose mine. I spent all day making it just for you. The prince looked at Jenny's orb. Indeed, it looked very, very nice. It was covered in gold and silver, and it was as shiny as can be. Clearly, a lot of work had gone into it. Then he looked at Wendy's. Hers looked very, very simple. It was just a plain white orb. I did my best, Your Grace. The prince thought long and hard. Should he choose Jenny's? It was nice and shiny, and she was Jeffrey's niece after all. Jeffrey had never steered the king wrong. But there was something special about Wendy's that made him want to use it. He made his choice. He took Wendy's orb, and it started glowing. First white, and then blue. His clothes changed. He wasn't wearing his dull red princely clothes anymore. He was now covered in white from head to toe, with a new white crown to match. He was no longer prince, but king. Suddenly, Jenny's orb began to vibrate and poof, it disappeared in smoke. That's impossible, yelled Jeffrey. I took that orb from the king's. He covered his mouth, but it was too late. The whole room had heard what he had said. Jeffrey, I am very disappointed in you. You have served me for 30 years, and not once have you steered me wrong. I trusted you, but I trust you no longer. Guards, throw him into the dungeon, at once. You can't! This is a mistake! Yelled Jeffrey, but no one listened. The old king looked at Jenny, the evil niece. She wasn't laughing anymore. Actually, she was crying. As for you... excuse me, Your Highness? Yes, what is it, Wendy? I know that Jenny lied, but she was just doing what her uncle told her to do. I don't think she's really that bad. Could you please forgive her? The old king was deep in thought. Very well, said the old king. I will forgive her. Jenny was very surprised by this. But why? I was so mean to you. It's not your fault your uncle is evil. Maybe we could be friends? Jenny wiped her eyes. Sure, we can be friends. She was smiling, but it wasn't an evil smile anymore. She smiled a genuine smile, maybe even for the first time in her whole life. And so, the day was saved once again thanks to Wendy. The new king was very kind, and everyone loved him. Jenny would come visit Wendy sometimes, and they'd spend the whole day making all sorts of cool inventions, and everyone lived happily ever after. You know, that was kind of a fairy tale. Huh, I guess it was. But that's not so bad. It was fun, wasn't it? Yep, I guess it was. See? Told you so. Anyway, it's time for bed. Oh, can't we do another one? Tell you what, we can do another one tomorrow, okay? Fine, but you better not forget. Of course. How could I forget about the smartest girl in the whole country? Yeah, there's no way you'd forget. Good night, kiddo. Good night. End.
So, what did you think? Personally, I thought that story was very cute. Which I know is kind of contradictory, because if you watched my 4-hour writing challenge video, I mentioned distinctly that I don't usually write wholesome stories. And even in the previous reflection video, I mentioned that I don't typically write happy-go-lucky, wholesome stories. But you know what? There is an exception to every rule, and this is one of them. Much like last time we're at it, my friend's reaction to this story, I would like to add my friend's reaction to this story because this is a different friend, but they didn't respond. I talk about how the slide into the DM story was left unread, but this one, WeChat doesn't have a read function, but if it did, this totally would have been left unread because my friend did not respond at all. And you might say, oh, maybe they were busy. No. Okay, I remember distinctly the morning that I sent that message, okay? It was because we were all living in the same house at the time. I sent them the message and the link, the Dropbox link, and then I went downstairs to make breakfast. And there she was. She had YouTube on the TV, watching some, finance guru. She had WeChat open on her laptop, so she definitely saw it, did not respond. And I guess you can't really expect your friends and whatnot to, be as excited about your stories as you are, but, honestly, the first story was the first one that I got a genuinely, cool response from, and that's because my friend, actually I'll link his Instagram below, he's an artist, is a fellow creative, so my friend for story number 2 did not respond. My friend for story number 3 did thank me, but they didn't give me any feedback or anything like that. That doesn't really bother me too much, at least they did acknowledge my message. And then story number 4 is the slide into the DM story, which obviously got left unread, so. But yeah, I really like this story. I think that this has been very fun. Maybe next year I might do stories number 3 and number 4. Those stories aren't as good. Like project after project, the quality just tanks after a while, I guess. I was just running out of ideas. Yeah, and with that, this is the last video of the year. It's been a very interesting year. There's been a lot of content shift, and honestly, there's going to be a little bit of a shift come 2024 when video direction. It's still going to be this kind of hybrid vlog voiceover type thing that I normally do because I think that this is the most fun type of video for me to do. It's going to be the first video of the month is probably going to be focusing on something related to the Lullabye universe. I feel the way that my channel has been going so far, I've been focusing too much on these writing challenges, and I haven't given enough incentive for people to check out my current work. Because I'm here's these pro style stories, right? But by the way, check out my screenplay series, which has nothing to do with this whatsoever. There's kind of mixed messaging there. I feel I need to kind of promote that just a little bit more. But at the same time, I started doing these writing challenges because I didn't want to just submit myself into one series. So that's why I kind of do these more writing challenges and stuff, just to give a bit of variety, just so I don't pigeonhole myself into one genre. The second video is probably going to be a more traditional writing challenge type thing. I don't know, it's kind of hard. I'm only just now getting into it, so it's going to take some time for me to establish my space and everything. So without further ado, I'm going to end it off here. I'll wish you a Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, Happy Holidays if you celebrate something else, and if you don't celebrate anything at all, have a good day, I guess. And also be sure to check out my current project, the Lullabye universe. The links are available in the description below. Without further ado, see ya!